नान्तः प्रज्ञं न बहिष्प्रज्ञं नोभयतः प्रज्ञं न प्रज्ञानघनम् न प्रज्ञं नाप्रज्ञम् अदृष्टम् अव्यवहार्यम् अग्राह्यमलक्षणम् अचिन्त्यम् अव्यपदेश्यम् एकात्मप्रत्ययसारम् प्रपञ्च उपशमम् शान्तं शिवम् अद्वैतं चतुर्थं मन्यन्ते स आत्मा स विज्ञेयः. Chant number 17, Karikas number 17 and 18, on page 6. Prapancho yadi vidyeta nivarteta na samshayaha maya matramidam dvaitam advaitam paramarthataha vikalpo vinivarteta kalpito yadi kenachit upadeshadayam vadaha jnate dvaitam na vidyate. So the core teaching of Vedanta should be very much kept in mind as we approach our lives. And that is, see, in the way we approach our lives and how we deal with problem solving, how we want to improve ourselves, all of that is with respect to the fact that we have a certain idea about the reality of the world. Because when things happen to us, they appear real. Bad things happen to us, good things happen to us, and all that. This is what life is all about. So the Vedantic teaching says, listen, a certain reality is expected because that's how the creation is. But the reality is what is called sapeksha reality, relative reality. Sapeksha reality. It is not nirapeksha reality. It is not absolute reality. So this distinction between the relative reality and the absolute reality must be kept in mind as we approach the next phase of our life, which is with the help of the Shastra. Because it's very possible, very likely, that we have led a life without a structure and an instruction on what is going on. We do the best we can, we ask each other, and your parents give you some guidance, and we go on with whatever we are equipped with. But deep underneath, there is something fundamentally more valuable for us to know as to what the structure of life is. And this is provided us by the Shastra. And so once we begin to see that structure, a very higher structure, which is less and less available because we are in in that phase of the whole creation, of the whole kalpa, where this is not easy to find. We are in Kali Yuga. In Kali Yuga. And I read somewhere, one of the commentaries by Swami Maheshananji, that the Kali Yuga, I exactly don't remember the exact one, is something like 4 lakhs years, 400,000 years, something like that. We are into the 5,000th year so far. Just beginning. What it means is that if our average age is 80 years, let's say, and you do not understand this whole thing in this life, your next life will be also in Kali Yuga. And many more lives will be in Kali Yuga. And slowly the Kali Yuga gets worse. It really gets worse. And it's amazing. Swami Dayanand used to say that. He says, you know, right now it is only in Saudi Arabia that you cannot teach Gita openly. You will be imprisoned if you were to talk about Gita. There will be a time when this will happen everywhere. Those days are coming. It will happen everywhere, with the exception of India. And even in India, it will be very difficult. Very difficult. You have to but this is not going to, this is a flame which is Ishvara's flame. So human beings cannot extinguish it. So, but it will be very small flame. Anyway, the point is that we have a workout to do, and the only way to really cut through all of this Kali Yuga is to just hold on to the tail of Ishvara. Really, whatever chance we get, we should just seize on it. Absolutely. I find sometimes, I think you may have seen my email to people on this Panchadashi course. There were a number of people who had signed up, and I don't see them. So I sent an email to everybody, not everybody, a few people that I don't see, and saying, where are you? I thought we were, and I get emails from people saying, I had best intentions, but something has come up and I'm not able to do this. So I said, fine, that's up to you. But then I said, this is a very important chance. Please make sure that your life is headed in the right direction. And a couple of people have written back saying, thank you for doing that. I'm actually going to change the schedule and try to attend, which is good. Anyway, so going back to the instructions, so the instructions by the Shastra is that the reality of the life that you see should be seen to be in 2 levels. One is Sapeksha reality, and this can also be called transactional reality, Vyavaharika Sat. So the Vyavaharika Sat needs to be dealt with appropriately. In other words, you cannot, if you are, it is kind of like acting in a play. You cannot just leave the rules of the play and then just say, oh, this is all, supposing you are acting in a play and you have a role to play, and then all of a sudden you say, this is so stupid. Why am I doing all this? And then you just start laughing or doing something funny and which is not in the script. And people will say, what is going on? What are you doing? And he says, this is just a play. He says, yes, of course, and you are also a player, so play with it. Anyway, the point is that the Vyavaharika Sapeksha reality should be dealt it at the Sapeksha level. If your family needs your help, please provide the help and the time. Absolutely. But deep down below, you should see that at the absolute level, this reality disappears. And so that promise is given to you, and you have to fulfill the promise yourself. Follow the steps, and you will find that this reality fades into a non-reality. It is kind of like if you are playing if you are playing a role in a play, and supposing you don't like it, and supposing you say that, I hate to play the role of this beggar through this 2 hours of this thing. And your producer will remind you, hey, you're getting a lot of money for doing that. And why are you bothered about it? I don't understand this. Just play. And no one plays the beggar as well as you do. We have specially chosen you for this purpose. And it's important that you understand that you are free to play the beggar because you're not a beggar. And this is just a kind of a dialogue. And so you say, you know what, you're right. That's okay. And so the roles of insecurity are best played if you are fully secure. And the full security is done through an understanding that this reality is not there. And so a lot of the instructions in the Karika at this point is all with respect to this point, that reality is in two stages, Sapeksha reality and Nirapeksha reality. So, so we will go into this in more detail, but there is a mantra in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, which is an important mantra, where it says, Atma is Satyasya Satyam. Beautiful mantra. Satyasya Satyam. What it means is that it is not as though you do not have a sense of reality about the world. It's not that. There is a Satyam. There's a certain sense of reality. If somebody is trying to attack you or something, then you're affected by it. You have to defend against it. But there is actually a higher level of Satyam than this Satyam. So this is what is called Satyasya Satyam. The truth of the truth. The reality of the reality. That is not obvious to us. And the entire teaching of Vedanta is to prove this promise to you, Satyasya Satyam. And so in verse number 17 and 18, both of them, this is explained up to a certain level. And we have seen quite a bit of that. So it says, Prapanchaha yadi vidyeta nivartetana samshayaha maya matramidam dvaitam advaitam paramarthitaha. And so Swami Maheshananji says that, for example, if something does not even exist, you cannot have a date of birth and death about it. Like, for example, the classical one is that of seeing something in the rope which is not there. Like we often just talk about snake, which is an important example because the snake is the one that creates a certain amount of fear in you that was not there before. And this one very beautiful example of Maya, the Maya Shakti, is a very beautiful one, where in the Maya Shakti, you can change a Jada Vastu, an inert Vastu, which is like a rope, into a live Vastu, which is like a snake. Amazing. You try to do that. You cannot do that. But the Maya allows you to do that. This is why Maya has the ability of doing impossible things. So the rope becomes a snake, which is an amazing thing. And so if you see a snake in a Maya, in a rope, the question is, when was it born? And when is it going to die? You cannot establish that. When you saw it sometimes, and when it's going to go away also we are not sure. Perhaps you can say that when you put a flashlight on it, you see it very well, then it can go. Some approximate idea. Similarly, for example, the same thing is there for sleep, as I mentioned to you, I think before. You can never tell when you go to sleep. It just happens. You cannot time it and say, okay, now I'm asleep, because you won't be there at that time. And even someone else can also not to see you. You're just lying there and you look like you're asleep. And this often happens to me when my wife is lying next to me and I'm trying to get up. Actually happened this morning because I woke up by the alarm, and then I look to see whether she's asleep or not. And she pretends she's asleep, but sometimes she's not. I cannot tell. I have no idea when she's asleep or when she's not asleep. So the things that are created by the sense of Maya, they do not have any, we cannot say. So this is really what it says, prapancha yadi vidyeta nivartetana samshaya. It says that if the prapancha was there, for sure, then we could remove it. But we cannot tell it is there. So therefore, just to summarize my initial instructions, and then we will continue with that. Our approach to life, and so this is an important thing for us to keep in mind as we develop this. This is one of the fundamental things of the students of Vedanta have to do. Our approach to life needs to have two segments, two ways of looking at our life. One segment is that at the relative level, I have to deal with it. And I should deal with it. It's not as though I have to deal with it. I should just deal with it. And so this is approached by the word karma yoga in Bhagavad Gita. So karma yoga means that all of the actions in your life, your dealing with things in life and so on, should be used as a yoga, not used as and do a good job. Play the sequence of all of the things required in the play very well. And the better job you do, the better job you have of doing a good job in the second segment. And the second segment is, there is no reality to this. And your mind also protests. What are you saying? How can there be two separate things? First, either it is real or it is not real. There Vedanta says, and that you have to teach your own mind that listen, that's not true. The whole definition of mithya is with that. So what it says is it's not true. At the vyavaharika level, at the sapeksha level, at the relative level, yes. But my sights are on a higher plane, which is that at the absolute level, this is not there. So what it really means is, in terms of the instructions to how we should live our life, is that your approach, it's a very important thing to see, that while you are transacting, you should see that ultimately you are not going to solve your life with these things that you see in front of you. It's not going to happen. If you just play along with it, but ultimately you have to see your reality is something different from it. You have to discover the independence from it. This is the second segment that you have to do. So this in Bhagavad Gita also, same thing is given. Really, it's very consistent throughout. In Bhagavad Gita also, it is Karma Yoga followed by Jnana Yoga. And Karma Yoga is just a preparation for Jnana Yoga. Karma Yoga means that at the relative level, you please do a good job of leading a life which is required of you, expected of you, and this is what you've been doing all your life. In fact, this is what the script of the world shows. You have to do that. But while you're doing it, you should see that there is something higher than that, which is an amazing creation of Ishvara, that what appears to be a prapancha, it is really just like a dream. The dream is a prapancha. There's a lot going on, but nothing is going on. But you have to see that. You have to really wake up to that reality. So here in verse number 17, it says exactly the same thing. Now I'm just giving you the meaning of this. Prapancha yadi vidyeta. He says, I'm sorry, but if the reality of the world were to be absolute, then it is possible that we could think about some way of removing it. But we can't. You don't need to do it, and you cannot do it anyway. Cannot do it. At the vyavaharika level, you cannot remove it. So you see a lot of waves in the ocean and so on, that is prapancha. And so you cannot say that I want complete silence of the ocean. Stupidity. The very nature of Ishvara, we are going to do this in the Bhagavad Gita class. So there are two things talked about it. Again, you should see the technical words used for it. So the two words are Swarupa and Swabhava. Swarupa and Swabhava. By the way, I think one of the things I'm hoping to do is that we will have a television screen, and then I will have a pad that I can write on, which will be instantly displayed on the television screen. So I think we're going to try to do that. So we're in the process of getting a TV screen which is visible to you, because I really miss writing these things down that you can also copy. And as some of you are taking the Sanskrit class from Kumud, so I'm looking forward to doing that. Anyway, so those are the two words, Swarupa and Swabhava, which we have said before, but I'm just repeating. So Swarupa is one where it is intrinsic to a vastu. It is the very nature of a thing. It's called swarupa. The second one is swabhava. So swabhava means that it is not necessary for the swabhava to be there for the vastu to become real. But it's one of the things that comes as as part and parcel of it, which may or may not be necessary, may not be there, but it just happens to have that Shakti. So in terms of the ocean, the waterness of the ocean is the Swarupa. And the waviness of the ocean is the Swabhava. Is the Swabhava. And so, Swabhava means that it doesn't really disturb the Swarupa of the ocean. But if you're bothered by it for whatever reason, and there's some good reasons why you may be bothered by it, if you happen to be one of the waves, and your estimation of who you are has nothing to do with the fact that you're water, all you're concerned with is the dancing of the form of the wave, then it is very possible that you're bothered by the Swabhava. Because you're taking the Swabhava to be the Swarupa. You see? But if you are able to, if the discrimination can take place, that Swabhava cannot disturb the Swarupa, then you can enjoy it. So this is exactly what the verse number 17 is saying. He says that, listen, our attempts to remove the prapancha, so the prapancha here means the dancing of the waves, the duality which is apparent in this example of an ocean, the duality of different waves, bigger waves, smaller waves, which start, which end, have different function, all of those kinds of things. And this is what our life is, that you have births, you have deaths, you have forms, you have sukha dukkha, all those kinds of things. So if that is the swabhava, it is not the swarupa of the Atma. And if this were to be the swarupa, and it is really bothersome, then we don't say that you can just remove it at a relative level. We'd have to say you have to try to remove it at the absolute level. This is what he's saying. The very first line of it says, Prapancho yadi vidyeta nivartetana samshaya. It's not true. Maya matra midam dvaitam. This is just, it just appears to be. And in anticipating number 18 also, the same thing is there. This is an important thing to see, because in any way of looking at life other than Vedanta, there is an attempt to really remove everything. To say, no, we are looking at ways of finding out what is the absolute nature of it, and we are close to it. There are a couple of things are left here and there, but we are close to it. One of the things that is left is, what is this consciousness? And we will figure it out one of these days. We're going to figure it out. It is you. How are you going to figure it out? How are you going to? It's not possible. So that's exactly what it means, is that at the absolute level, there is no Dvaitam. This is just a Swabhava. There is no Swarupa. Maya matram idam Dvaitam. Advaitam paramarthataha. Then it says, it is better that we switch over in your life, just to close off what I said early in the very beginning. Your attitude should be, instead of fighting every part of your life as an absolute, deal with it on a relative level, but then start to put your attention towards the second one. How is it that it is not real? Yes, there's a lot of effort required to do so. There's a lot of preparation required for you to do so. No doubt about it. But it's the truth. You know, this is kind of like what I was saying about meditation. What I find is so beautiful. I was telling you about, just wait it out. Be patient. And it's so lovely, honestly, that you start doing meditation and your mind is all over the place, this, that, or the other, and then you say, how am I going to have silence and order and so on? And your whole attitude with a smile and your inner smile in your face and your patience is, wait. Okay, dance in front of me. Dance. Let's see what you can do. Because I am something higher than you. I am silence. I am the nature of silence. I am the reality of the silence. You have a relative reality. I have absolute reality. Who's going to win out? And you find it works. Your mind protests. It's kind of like, as Swami TV always, I always found his analogy to be so good. He says, the mind is like a child. So true. He was the first one to really point that out. Possibly Swami Dayananji may have said it and so on, and none of the other acharyas, but everybody adds a little bit something. And Swami TV's was wonderful. And I find it is so true. Your mind, when you start doing meditation and so on and so forth, it's saying, hey, you have forgot to do this. You're supposed to pick up milk. You've got work to do. What are you doing? You're just sitting there meditating. Swami Vaishnavanji, just to digress for a second, he says, the life of a Vedantin is very tough. Very tough. He said that, he gave a very beautiful example, really just phenomenal. He says there are two daughter-in-laws in a joint family in India, which happens all the time. Less and less, but happens. So two sons of a family get married, and they get married to two women, and these two daughter-in-laws come to the house. And so one of them so both of them have some habits. Their children are also grown up, so the grandkids and the grandmothers, and they're all in the house observing them and their habits and how they lead their lives and so on. So in giving this contrast, Swamiji says, one of the daughter-in-laws likes to sleep in very late. She wakes up at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock or something, while the rest of the things are going on and so on and so forth. So this is also not really appreciated, but tolerated. It's the way it is. What can you do? So everybody has a room, and she doesn't come out until 10 o'clock. So what are you going to do? So this is what. The other daughter-in-law wakes up early and starts doing puja to herself and to so on and so forth, and spends like 2 hours doing that. Same 10 o'clock. This first daughter-in-law is asleep at 10 o'clock. The other one has still not come out of the room. She's taken a shower, bath, and she's doing puja. And she's doing puja for 2 hours. Do you know which one the parents are going to be more mad at? Imagine. Swamiji says this, just look at it. The person who's doing puja, they'll get more mad at. For sure. Absolutely pakka. Why? Because the person who's sleeping in, they say, that's her habit. What can we do about it? She must be tired. She cooked last night for the whole family and so on and so forth. But this other woman, there is a limit to doing puja. It's ridiculous. You are awake already, aren't you? So help out with making breakfast for the whole family and so on and so forth. And instead, you know what she does? This is called swartha. Means that she is just very selfish. Exactly. She's very selfish. She doesn't think about anybody else. She only thinks about herself. She only thinks about herself. This is not good. So they'll get more mad at her. Can you imagine this? Swamiji says, I've seen this over and over again. And even in our lives, you will see that people will say, I'm helping out with things. I'm doing this, that, or the other. And you are just studying Vedanta for yourself. So Swamiji says, you know what? The life of a Vedantin is very tough because to seek Parameshwara, you have to really not only go against the grain of your own self because you're not used to seeking Parameshwara. You're just doing trivial things here and there and you're very busy. I remember Swami Dayanandji had said something which was very useful to me. It's like 15 years ago. He said, in one of the satsangs he pointed this out. He said, procrastination, it's not a good thing. You're a procrastinator. Procrastinator means that you should be doing some things, but you say, I don't know, we'll do it later. You keep on watching television or something. You're supposed to be doing something. So procrastination is not a good thing. He says, do you know the subtle form of procrastination? He says that the normal procrastinator, you don't find too many people. Nobody would say, yeah, you do find it, but that's easy to overcome. That was his point. The more subtle form of procrastination is this, and this was very useful for me to see. The subtle form of procrastination is you have a list of things that you need to do. What you keep on doing is trivial things. And the important things you put down at the bottom of the list. This is the more harmful procrastination. So why is it more harmful? Because your own justification is, what do you mean? I'm busy. I'm doing things. Don't call me a procrastinator. I've got to do this, I've got to do this. How important are they? Well, but I have to do them. What can I do? But shouldn't you start the study or something like this? But I don't have the time to do that. That takes a long time. And I tell you, I remember coming back from the satsang and just examining my own life and my own list. I said, he is right. These things play tricky things on you. This is exactly what happens. You keep on being very busy with trivial things. Anyway, so going back to what I was saying earlier, that the two phases of life are Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. So Karma Yoga means that at the relative level, at the sapeksha level, you have to deal with it. But the real progress is where you say, eventually, I have to see that. So this is an important thing to see. You cannot have your attitude towards the life that it alone I have to solve. This is exactly what happens in our life. If you examine your life, what you find is that I am busy rearranging it in a manner that it gives me fun and pleasure. That's what it is. And we do not quite get it, that fun at a relative level is okay, necessary even, to fulfill your hunger and thirst and this, that, some fun, some relaxation is okay. But it's not going to solve your problem. Not going to do it. But people don't know what else to do, so you keep doing it. There is something else which is possible. And that is to really just be devoted to understanding Parameshwara. And we'll talk a lot more about this. And what do you mean by what do you mean by just devoting to Parameshwara? Means the higher reality, the very absolute reality, which is the world itself is not prapancha, is Dvaitam, but it is basically Advaitam. Wait it out, and then you will see glimpses of it that will change your life. So that's the basic advice we should see, is that you are not going to find final answers from the world. You are going to find relative answers from. This is the very sense of what is being said here, really. And it's interesting, in the verse number 18, let me see if there's some other points that I wanted to, there's so many beautiful things to, let me, before we go to 18, another very lovely example that I saw, just insight by Swami Maheshananji. He said, just as an example of the relative versus the absolute. Okay? So he says, beautiful examples from real life that he brings up. He says, suppose, as it usually would happen in India, where we have domestic help. Here we do everything ourselves. We don't have any domestic help. But in India, everybody has domestic help. And one of our students, she wrote to me later on. I was talking about servants, and she wrote an email to me. It says, "Vijayji, I'm sorry, but I don't like the word servant. And please don't use that word because it creates." So I says, "Oh, I understand that. So now I'm using domestic help instead of servant." But anyway, so the example is, Swami Maheshananji says that you're sitting there, all of a sudden, the crockery breaks. And for the housewife, this is not an easy thing to see because, everything is arranged in 8s and 12s and 4s. Something breaks. Now you don't have 8 saucers or cups. You only have 7. And if you have, what are you going to do? So you says, oh my God, there he goes again. There he goes again. You have this, and here Swami Maheshananji gives a humorous sidetrack to this. He says, by the way, when I see this happen, I get a smile on my face because what happens is, he says that the expensive crockery is made with bones, which is all this, what is it called? English? Bone china. Bone china. And he says that in the dharmic households of India, the bone china is not used because it is made out of bones. And so should be made out of earth. And And so he says that when I see a bone china being broken, I see two things. I'm happy that the bone china got broken. It should not be used in the house anyway. Number two, the housewife is much more upset about bone china breaking because it is so expensive. So expensive. Anyway, this was just a sidetrack that he gave. Now here, go back to the basic example. So the china breaks and the housewife says, oh my God, this guy, I tell you, here he breaks it again. In this attitude, there are two ways of looking at it. One is called sapeksha karanam and nirapeksha karanam. So just look at this. Sapeksha karanam means that there is a understandable reason why it broke. And examples of that are, you can say that this crockery piece has lasted a number of years. It was time something would happen. I'm surprised. So one of the karanam is that chances are something will happen. Standpoint of probability. This is one sapeksha karanam. Another one can be, Swamiji says that supposing this person's wife was very ill and he has no other help and he has to take care of her all night long, giving her medicines and so on. He was awake all night long. The guy is sleepy. And so she forgets, possible to do that. And so now, if you give a reason for it, you're okay. You're okay. But supposing you say, why do these things only happen to me? The other day also a crockery broke. Another one broke today also. And there must be some Ishvara is against me and so on and so forth. Or you can have all kinds of things. Your kama and krodha, your desire and your anger is unlimited. You cannot be satisfied. So therefore, he says that your attitude towards life should be that if something doesn't go according to your plans, then just find a local reason to calm you down. But do not find a greater, because it will never happen. You're never going to find perfection in life. The only perfection you'll find is yourself, and you're not looking at it. What can we do? The only source of perfection, which is Parameshwara, which is nothing but you, you're not examining. You're not even willing to do so. Anyway, that was another beautiful example that he gave. Then in, I think I'll just quickly go over number 18. So that this is the English translation of that is very confusing. I have to tell you that. It's I had to go through several different translations, and very interestingly enough, of course, Swami Maheshananji's in this book Gaudapada Sara, he does not give a precise definition for each verse. He doesn't give a precise Hindi translation of each verse. Excuse me, he doesn't do that. He starts to give commentary right away without giving a separate sentence. So it's only in Hindi. So I was looking for an English translation and I was not able to find it except at one place, which I'll tell you that in later on. So let's look at the English translation of this verse. Imagine how convoluted it is, non-understandable. Look at it. Number 18. If some illusion is imagined by someone, it is liable to or could be turned away. This statement involving vikalpa is on account of its usefulness for instruction. When the highest is known, duality does not exist. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? And in fact, in a couple of other books also I studied, it was equally confusing. This is a very difficult thing to confuse. What helped me was very interesting. I had not studied this for a long time. This was a book by Swami Chinmayananda on Karika. I just went to it, and there also the translation itself is not very useful, but his explanation was very useful, very useful. And finally I put it all together along with this, and it just made sense to me. So let me just tell you. So his translation is, this is Swami Chinmayananda's. If anyone has ever imagined or projected the manifold ideas, they might disappear. This explanation is for the purpose of teaching. Duality implied in the explanation ceases to exist when the highest truth is realized. A little bit better than this, okay? Still not completely done. So here is the sense. In the explanation he says, and in fact I'll read verbatim what he says. He says, herein we have a tarka. Tarka means logic. Logic means that it's kind of like dry logic, pure logic. You have to take the logic at its face value, that's all. So, in fact, he gives a Latin word for it, reductio ad absurdum. I don't know what that means, but this is the explanation for logic. He says, the first half of this stanza gives us an example of tarka, an often used logic in philosophical disquisitions. Whatever disquisitions mean, I don't know. The argument is built up like this. Here comes the beauty. If the universe were a fantasy, it would be removed at one time, but it is not so removed, therefore it is not a fantasy. This is the thought that people will have. This is the reasoning. You can argue with someone, don't argue with someone, but supposing you're talking to someone and the person says, listen, this is the reality. Can you ever remove it? When can you remove it? And if you tell them, no, in my meditation and this, that, or the other, he says, don't give me all this BS, meditation, etc. When the meditation finishes, your headache is still there or not? Well, it is almost gone. It's still there. Stomach ache is there? Yes. Stomach ache is still there. Are you still hungry? Yes. So it is still the reality. How are you going to remove it? So you cannot say that this is not real. This is a beautiful explanation. So he says, if the universe were a fantasy, it would be removed at some time. But because it is not removed, therefore you cannot argue that it is a fantasy. This is the meaning of the first line of it, and a good meaning. So now we can, I don't know how this Sanskrit was constructed by Gaudapada. Vikalpaha vinivarteta kalpito yadi kenachit. So kenachit means someone were to argue. I was doing a translation of all of the verses as I asked you to do. One of our students actually had given me his explanation. I'm correcting it, and I will have an explanation of this for you, but please try to do it yourself. Here, to find a good translation, I found it very difficult, but I'm still working on it to do so. So basically, to summarize, I think we can close the class with the fact that our attitude of life should have two segments to it. So one is Karma Yoga and one is Jnana Yoga. Karma Yoga means that at the relative level, I need to do a good job. And if I don't do a good job, this is the whole teaching of the Bhagavad Gita, that if you don't do a good job in the relative level, you will create so many problems for yourself. You will create so many problems for yourself that you will not be able to pursue Jnana Yoga. Beautiful. Jnana Yoga. It's like this housewife, she'll find it very difficult because her mother-in-law is going to say, "There you again, didn't you do puja 2 hours yesterday? Why do you have to do it every day? You have to do some work, and by the way, I'm getting tired of your doing puja and not participating in this or the other." And if she says, "What about the other daughter?" She says, "Well, she's just tired. She's just tired, that's okay, but why do you have to do all of this?" So if at the relative level, so the thing is that she should reduce her puja. She should say, "Mother-in-law, can I please do it every other day for 1 hour?" He says, "Okay, now you're in good graces." So Karma Yoga means that you have to participate, pretend that you are doing good. Otherwise, you'll create so many problems that you won't be able to do real inquiry into the second phase, which is Jnana Yoga. Not possible for you to do that. So humor the world. Humor it. And while it is now accepting you, quietly go into the second phase of saying, "Really? You mean that I am the reality and the world is not? How? I don't understand it." Yes, it requires a lot of inquiry. So pursue on it. Anyway, that's the sense of all these karikas and so on. Anyway, I think we're almost done. So we'll see whether we'll begin the revision right away or do something else. And I have to think about some things. Anyway, we'll see that. Om Swasti Praja Swasti Bhyah Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Mahishaha Go Brahmanebhyah Shubhamastu Nityam Loka Samastha Sukhino Bhavantu Kale Varshatu Parjanyaha Prithvi Sasya Shalini Deshoyam Shobharahitaha Brahmana Santu Nirbhayaha Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramayaha Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhavet Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityo Ma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om. Yeah, Kalpana?
Kali Yuga is very long and we are at the beginning of the Kali Yuga. So by devoting ourselves to understanding the higher source, the Parameshwara, will we be able to escape the Kali Yuga?
Yeah, there will be no yoga, nothing. You're just at it. You're just out of it. You'll awaken it. So the Kali Yuga is also in a state of dream. But in a very structured dream, with you cannot escape the dream because of the karma and karma phala and adrishta phala and all those kinds of things. Yes, so it will be all over. Yeah.
So you could be living in this Kali Yuga, but mentally you will be at the stage where it doesn't bother.
So say that again one more time.
So let's say next birth we will still be in karma in this Kali Yuga. But our status of mind could be such that it will not bother us.
So yeah, I think that, so the other part of that is that for those who adopt uh, Parameshwara as the goal, then you are uh, you are okay. You will be protected against any other problems of any kind. So, but you just have to turn towards Ishvara, and then doesn't matter. There's fire going on. It's not. It'll be a while before it gets much worse, because we're still in the beginning of the. So in the meantime, and at any one time, what it means, it gets more difficult for people to do it, but still possible. Still possible. That's all. Yeah. Yeah, Viren?
You said about relative reality and absolute, and you have to do both. There's, I don't know the full show, I don't remember the full show, but in Gita it says, Mamunusmar Yudhita. That means do your yudh as well as remember me. Is that...
Yeah, so exactly right. So I mean that, so when you have enough awareness of the second stage, then while you are conducting so the karma yoga will become easier for you. At the beginning it might require some special effort on your part to have the right attitude. But as you begin to see the presence of Ishvara in whatever you do, then it becomes easier for you to play the role while you're seeing that I am really getting prepared for the second phase, which is Jnana Yoga. Yeah. So it's the same thing pretty much.
The main thing is to remember it.
Well, remember meaning here to understand. Pure memory, what are you going to do? Memory, Ishvara, 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 Ishvara. What is that going to do?
No, the understanding, remembering the understanding.
So the understanding, remembering will come naturally if you begin to understand the presence of what does it mean? What does it mean? We'll go into this in more detail, don't worry about it. There's a lot more coming in that sense. But remembering here really means understanding the very... So here, for example, if someone comes to your door, who's a complete stranger, do you recognize him as a form of Ishvara? And that is the memory, that is the real understanding. So all of that needs to be done, and that will take time for our introduction to become thorough with all the jnanam and so on and so forth. So in the meantime, you have to force it a little bit, and if you don't know it, there's a very beautiful section in I'm beginning to feel there's so many lovely sections that require maybe 5 or 10 classes just by itself. It would be wonderful. So, for example, in one of the chapters of Panchadashi again, 7 factors were talked about by Swami Vidyaranya. So one is Ajnanam, then Avaranam, then Vikshepaha, then Paroksha Jnanam, then Aparoksha Jnanam, and then Triptihi, and then Shoka Nivaranam. These are the 7 stages of one's life. And there are, not life, but understanding. Beautiful explanations of each one of them, how it relates to our life. And so we'll have to do that one of these days sometimes. Lovely. Just so structured, so beautiful, so easy to relate to. 7 these facts. So it, when you say memory, memorize. That's one of the mid portions of that somewhere. So it probably switching from paroksha jnanam to aparoksha jnanam. So something like that. Yes.
Our scriptures define Mahayagna, Pancha Mahayagnas
Mhm.
for Karma Yoga.
Yes.
So that is for Antakarana Shuddhi.
Yes.
So we need to transcend to get into Nididhyasanam, right? So there is nothing like practicing Nididhyasanam. There is no demarcation between, you don't go from masters to PhD like that. So you said that only meditation is to keep your mind steady. So meditation is not part of the Nididhyasana.
So no, I mean, you're using one English word and one Hindi word, Sanskrit word. So I'm not sure how to translate. You were saying meditation.
The way we did meditation
Yeah.
is we do
Yeah,
for all three, for all Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam, meditation.
So I think that what we're saying is that the real thing is Nididhyasanam. What it means is that you are so absorbed in understanding the absolute truth, as we talked about earlier, its implications, its relevance, all of that, which comes from the teaching. You're so absorbed in doing so that you are in that world of reality. This is Nididhyasana. So the what we are doing so far is just the first step of getting prepared for doing that. And then your outside things that you talked about, the Pancha Mahabhutas, the Pitra Yajna and Bhuta Yajna, and all of those are all helpful. All those are preparation. Everything is a preparation. Everything is a preparation. But the final one is where you are able to dwell in that realm of reality, of absolute reality, and its implications, its relevance, and so on and so forth. That is Nididhyasana. So it's not mumbo jumbo, it's all structured in that manner. And the final thing is nothing but Parameshwara, the appreciation of the presence of Parameshwara. And so this is what we will do as we continue the study. Okay, so we will close today's class.